The quiet hum of the council chamber filled with tension as the gathered representatives waited. This was the highest authority in the galaxy, the Galactic Confederation, rulers of 1,000,000 worlds across the spiral arms. Councillor Tuck entered the circular chamber, his slender frame moving with purpose to the central platform. He adjusted his formal robes, took a deep breath, and began his presentation. Esteemed members of the Council, I bring troubling data from our outer monitoring stations, Tuck said, his voice calm despite his inner worry. He gestured at the holographic display that sprang to life above the chamber floor. These energy readings were captured 3 solar cycles ago at the edge of the arm of Doyen. The display showed wave patterns unlike anything seen in standard Confederation ships. The energy signatures pulsed with strange rhythms that made several council members shift uncomfortably in their seats. High Minister June rose from his elevated position. His scaled skin reflected the blue light of the hologram as he studied it briefly before making a dismissive gesture. These are clearly sensor malfunctions, Jome announced confidently. The outer arm stations are outdated and in need of replacement. There has never been a power to rival our Confederation in the 50,000 years of our rule. Many council members nodded in agreement. Why would there be cause for alarm? The Confederation had maintained peace for millennia, guiding lesser species toward enlightenment under their benevolent control. With respect, Minister, Tuck persisted. The readings were confirmed by 3 separate stations. Something approaches from beyond our galaxy. Enough. June's voice echoed through the chamber. I will hear no more of these fantasies. The session is closed. As the council members filed out, Tuck stood alone on the platform, staring at the data he knew was real. Something was coming. Something old. Far from the political center of the Confederation, on a small research outpost orbiting a forgotten star, astronomer Hannah worked alone in her observatory. Her people, the Nuri, were considered a minor species in the Confederation, useful mainly for their scientific minds, but never truly respected. Hannah's small fingers moved across her console, adjusting the deep space scanners that were her life's work. Unlike the standard Confederation technology, her instruments were specially modified, designed to see farther and clearer than official equipment. There you are again, she whispered to herself as she detected the strange energy patterns. For 3 months, she had been tracking the anomalies, watching them grow stronger. Hannah reached beneath her workstation and pulled out an old book. Actual paper, bound with leather, a forbidden object she had inherited from her grandmother. It contained the secret history of the Nuri people, stories passed down through generations. She opened to a page with ancient drawings showing strange vessels and beings who walked on 2 legs. The text spoke of creatures called humans who had once lived among the stars before vanishing from the galaxy. According to the forbidden histories, humans had been friends to the Nuri, teaching them about space travel before some great disaster forced them to flee. The Confederation histories mention nothing of these beings. Official records stated that the ruling species had developed space travel independently and uplifted all other races from primitive states. Someone was lying, and Hannah suspected it was the Confederation. Her scanner suddenly blared with alerts. The energy signatures had multiplied tenfold in the last hour. Hannah rushed to her main viewer and gasped at what she saw. At the very edge of detection range, thousands of objects were appearing, as if emerging from the darkness between galaxies. They moved with purpose and organization, clearly artificial and clearly heading toward Confederation space. Hannah's hand trembled as she turned to the page in her book, showing the ancient human ships. The silhouettes matched perfectly. They've returned, she whispered, a mixture of fear and hope in her voice. In his private chambers, High Minister June received an urgent message from his secret intelligence service. The report contained information that should have been impossible. Massive fleet movements beyond the galaxy's edge. Technologies that outclassed Confederation capabilities by orders of magnitude. June's scaled hands shook as he deleted the report and summoned his inner council. Activate the defense protocols, he ordered. and find everyone who has accessed the deep space scanning network in the past month. Silence them. The greatest illusion in galactic history, that the Confederation had always been the pinnacle of civilization, was about to be shattered. After 50,000 years, humanity was coming home, and the lies of 50 millennia would soon face the light of truth. The stars themselves seemed to hold their breath as the human fleet moved through the outer reaches of the galaxy. 5,000 ships, each a marvel of engineering that had evolved during 20,000 years of exile. Their hulls gleamed with a metal unknown to the Confederation, absorbing rather than reflecting light. Admiral Sunwoo stood on the command deck of the flagship Reclamation, his weathered face illuminated by the glow of tactical displays. Behind him, the crew worked in practiced silence, their movements efficient after the long journey between galaxies. "Status report," Sunwoo ordered, his voice calm but carrying the weight of generations. "All ships have successfully transitioned into the galaxy," replied Commander Doyun from her station. "Stealth systems are functioning at optimal levels. The Confederation monitoring stations have not detected our main fleet." Sunwoo nodded, studying the holographic map that showed their position relative to the inhabited worlds. The galaxy looked much as their ancestors had recorded it, though many star systems now showed signs of development that had not existed before. "Begin Phase 1, he ordered. "Send the diplomatic vessel to the border world Kepler. It's time to announce our return." On the small observatory station, Hannah worked frantically to download her research data. Alarms blared throughout the facility, not from her discovery, but because someone had reported her. Confederation security forces would arrive within hours. She knew too much. She had seen the human fleet. As Hannah prepared to flee, the door to her laboratory slid open. She expected security officers, but instead found herself facing a tall, slender woman with features similar to her own, yet subtly different. "You must be Hannah," the woman said in perfect Nuri language. "My name is Minji. I've come to bring you to safety." Hannah stared in disbelief. "How did you get past the station security?" "Who are you?" "I'm human," Minji replied simply. "And we have technology your Confederation has forgotten existed. We need to leave now. You're in danger because you've seen us." Before Hannah could respond, her scanners detected multiple Confederation security vessels approaching the station. "They're coming for me," Hannah whispered. Minji smiled. "They won't find us." The human diplomatic vessel emissary approached the Kepler colony, a Confederation border world that served as a trading hub for the outer regions. Unlike the massive warships of the main fleet, this ship was smaller, designed to appear less threatening, while still showcasing human technological advancement. Inside the emissary's conference room, Diplomat Doha prepared for first contact. He had studied all available information about the current Confederation leadership and political structure. "Remember," he told his team, "our goal is not to frighten them, but to make them question what they've been told. The truth about our exile must spread naturally." The Confederation Reception Committee waited nervously in Kepler's main spaceport as the human ship docked. Governor Pack had received urgent instructions from the central government. "Welcome these strangers cordially, gather information, and report everything immediately." When the airlock opened, both sides found themselves facing beings who looked surprisingly similar. The Confederation representatives had expected monsters from the void, not people who resembled several known species. Doha stepped forward and spoke in the official Confederation language, shocking the reception committee with his perfect pronunciation. "Greetings from humanity. We have returned to our ancestral home after 20,000 years of exile." Governor Pack struggled to maintain his composure. "Our records show no species called humanity originating from this galaxy." Doha smiled gently. "That's because your records were altered. Your Confederation was built on a foundation of lies, Governor. We're here to restore the truth." In the Confederation capital, High Minister Jun convened an emergency meeting of the Security Council. The reports from Kepler had sent shockwaves through the government. These humans claimed to be the original developers of faster-than-light travel, artificial intelligence, and terraforming, all technologies that the founding species of the Confederation claimed to have invented. These outsiders must be silenced before their lies spread, Joan declared. Prepare the Grand Armada for deployment. An aide rushed into the chamber, interrupting the meeting. Minister, we're receiving reports of human diplomatic vessels appearing simultaneously at 30 different worlds across the galaxy. They're broadcasting historical records, images and data that contradict our official history. June's scales darkened with fury. How is this possible? How could they reach so many worlds without detection? Aboard the Reclamation, Admiral Sunwoo received the reports from the diplomatic missions with satisfaction. Phase 1 was proceeding as planned. The Confederation is mobilizing their fleet, Commander Doyeon reported. They've ordered all diplomatic vessels to be seized or destroyed. Sunwoo nodded, having expected this reaction. And so begins the storm. Alert all ships to prepare for Phase 2. When the Confederation attacks, we will not respond with violence. We will respond with truth. The storm clouds of conflict gathered as humanity's return sent ripples of uncertainty throughout the galaxy. In countless homes across 1,000 worlds, citizens watched their information networks with growing confusion as the official Confederation narrative began to unravel thread by thread. The Confederation Grand Armada moved through space like a metal storm. 500 warships, the pride of a 50,000-year empire, arranged in perfect attack formation. Their weapons systems hummed with energy, ready to destroy the intruders who threatened everything the Confederation had built. On the command ship, First Admiral Jeon watched the tactical display with cold confidence. The human fleet waited ahead, seemingly unconcerned by the approaching armada. They make no defensive moves, his second-in-command reported. Their ships remain in standard formation. They understand they cannot win, John replied. No force can stand against the full might of the Confederation. Throughout the galaxy, billions of beings watched the confrontation through emergency broadcasts. The Confederation propaganda network portrayed the humans as dangerous invaders, while on thousands of worlds, the secret transmissions from human diplomatic vessels told a different story. Aboard the Reclamation, Admiral Sunwoo stood calmly as the enemy approached. His crew worked with quiet efficiency, no sign of fear despite being outnumbered. They're moving into firing range, Commander Doyeon reported. Their weapons are locked on our primary vessels. Sunwoo nodded. Activate Defensive Measure Omega. No offensive action. Remember our mission. Throughout the human fleet, advanced shield systems engage. Unlike the visible energy barriers used by Confederation ships, these defenses operated on principles forgotten by the galaxy, technology developed during humanity's long exile. On the Confederation command ship, First Admiral Jeon gave the order to fire. Destroy their flagship first. Show them the price of challenging us. Energy weapons blazed across space, a dazzling display of destructive power that had subjugated countless species. The beams struck the human vessels directly, and nothing happened. The human ships remained intact, without visible shields or defensive systems. The energy simply disappeared upon contact with their hulls. Impossible, John whispered. Fire again. All weapons. The Grand Armada unleashed its full arsenal. Planet-killer missiles, gravitational disruptors, particle beams, all the terrible weapons that had kept the Confederation in power for millennia. Each attack vanished harmlessly against the human ships. Then, without warning, every Confederation vessel lost power. Emergency systems activated, providing life support and basic functions, but weapons, engines, and communications went dark. Inside his powerless flagship, Admiral Jeon stared in disbelief at the dead controls. What happened? Report. His second-in-command checked the emergency diagnostics. Some kind of energy pulse. Nothing is damaged, but all primary systems are offline. From every communication device on the ship, a voice spoke, the same voice, broadcasting simultaneously to every vessel in the Armada. This is Admiral Sunwoo of the human fleet. We have disabled your ships temporarily. No one has been harmed. We did not come to destroy, but to reveal. On thousands of worlds across the galaxy, beings watched as their information networks displayed images from Earth's ancient archives. They saw the original development of faster-than-light travel by human scientists. They watched historical recordings of the early Confederation species meeting with humans as equals, learning and trading technology. And then they saw the betrayal, the coordinated attack against human worlds, the ultimatum that forced humanity to flee the galaxy or face extinction. In the Confederation capital, High Minister Jun watched with growing horror as the carefully constructed history of his civilization unraveled before his eyes. The diplomatic aides rushed into his chamber with increasingly dire reports. "Minister, we're receiving messages from 37 planetary governments demanding explanations. The Nuri systems have declared independence from the Confederation. The defensive fleet at Sector 7 has refused orders to engage approaching human vessels." Jun slammed his scaled fist against the desk. "This cannot happen. We have ruled for 50,000 years. "You have ruled through lies," said a voice behind him. Jun turned to find Minji standing in his private chamber, somehow having bypassed all security. Beside her stood Hana, the Nuri astronomer who had first detected the human fleet. "How did you get in here?" Jun demanded. "Your security systems were designed using principles developed by humanity," Minji explained calmly. "We understand them better than you do." Hana stepped forward, her eyes filled with quiet anger. "You erased our true history. You told my people we were primitive until the Confederation uplifted us. But we were friends and allies of humanity before your ancestors forced them to flee. What do you want?" Jun asked, his voice losing its commanding tone. "Justice," Minji replied simply, "not revenge. The difference matters." Throughout the galaxy, the confrontation had ended without a single life lost. The Confederation armada floated powerless while the human fleet maintained position. On 100 worlds, citizens took to the streets, demanding answers from their leaders. Ancient texts and artifacts, long hidden for contradicting official history, emerged from secret places. Admiral Sunwoo looked out at the stars from the bridge of the reclamation. "Phase 3 complete," he said quietly. "Prepare for Phase 4. Revelation." The true test was about to begin. Humanity had shattered the Confederation's military might without firing a shot. Now came the harder part, helping a galaxy heal from 50,000 years of lies. The ancient archives beneath the Confederation capital had remained sealed for 40,000 years. Their existence was known only to the highest ministers of each generation, and even they rarely ventured into the cold, silent vaults. Today, the security doors stood open. The biometric locks that once protected the galaxy's most dangerous secrets had been bypassed with ease by human technology. Inside the main chamber, Hana moved slowly between shelves of preserved data crystals, each containing knowledge forbidden to the peoples of the Confederation. "It's all here," she whispered, her voice echoing in the cavernous room. "Everything they took from us." Beside her, Minji nodded. "Not just from humans, from every species that knew the truth." They stood before a central pedestal, where a single crystal glowed with soft blue light, the first archive, containing the true history of the galaxy before the Confederation's rise to power. "Are you ready?" Minji asked. Hana took a deep breath and placed her hand on the crystal. Information flowed into her mind, images and knowledge long suppressed. She saw her own ancestors, not as primitive beings grateful for Confederation uplift, but as respected scientists working alongside humans and dozens of other species in a coalition of equals. "My people helped develop the first living ships," Hana said in wonder. "We weren't savages. We were pioneers." On 1,000 worlds, similar revelations were occurring as human diplomatic teams helped local populations access their true histories. The Confederation's carefully constructed narrative, that they had developed all advanced technology and generously shared it with lesser species, was crumbling by the hour. In orbit above the Confederation capital, Admiral Sunwoo faced the remaining loyal ministers of the regime. The meeting took place aboard a neutral vessel, with representatives from 30 formerly subjugated species in attendance. High Minister Jun entered the chamber flanked by guards, his scaled skin pale with stress. He had aged visibly in the days since the human return. "You've destroyed everything," Jun said bitterly. 50,000 years of peace and order. "We've revealed the truth," Sunwoo corrected. "Your peace was built on subjugation. Your order maintained through lies." An elder from the Nuri delegation stepped forward. "Why? Why erase our true histories? Why claim credit for technologies you stole?" Jun's eyes narrowed. "Because unity required hierarchy. The founding species knew that equality breeds conflict. By positioning ourselves as the creators and benefactors, we established stability. At the cost of truth," said Commander Doyun, who stood beside the admiral. "At the cost of freedom." In the deep space between star systems, the remnants of the Confederation loyal fleet gathered around a hidden installation. First Admiral Jion had escaped the confrontation with a small contingent of ships, their commanders unwilling to accept the new reality. "The humans must be destroyed," he told his captains. "They've activated Planet Killer Omega. It's our final auction." Planet Killer Omega was the Confederation's most closely guarded weapon, a device that could trigger simultaneous nova events in multiple star systems. It had never been used, only threatened to keep rebellious worlds in line. "This will kill billions," one captain objected. "Better that than surrender to these invaders," Jion replied coldly. As the admiral entered his access codes to activate the weapon, nothing happened. The control system remained dark. "Your codes were changed 20 minutes ago," said a quiet voice from the doorway. Sunwoo stood there, flanked by Commander Doyun and a team of human security officers. None of them carried visible weapons. "How did you find this place?" Jion demanded. "How did you get aboard?" "We built this installation," Sunwoo explained, 50,000 years ago, before we were forced to leave. Did you think we wouldn't remember our own creations?" Throughout the Confederation territories, the revelation continued to spread. On the agricultural world of Seodo, farmers discovered that their traditional planting methods, forbidden by Confederation agricultural directives, were actually more advanced techniques passed down in secret from the time before. In the Taean system, engineers found that the inefficient power generation methods their ancestors had clung to were actually more sustainable approaches developed alongside humans millennia ago. Each discovery strengthened the growing understanding. The Confederation hadn't uplifted the galaxy. They had deliberately suppressed it to maintain control. In the capital's Grand Assembly Hall, representatives from 500 worlds gathered for an unprecedented meeting. For the first time in 50,000 years, all species stood as equals, without the Confederation hierarchy. Hannah addressed the assembly, the knowledge from the archives still fresh in her mind. "We were all betrayed," she told them, "not just by the Confederation founders, but by each generation of leaders who continued the deception." Minji stood beside her. "Humanity doesn't seek to replace one ruling power with another. We return offering partnership, as was always intended." As the assembly debated the galaxy's future, Admiral Sunwoo gazed out at the stars from the observation deck. Commander Doyun joined him in silence. "Phase 4 complete," Sunwoo said quietly. "The revelation has been delivered." "And Phase 5?" asked Doyun. Sunwoo smiled slightly. "The new dawn begins tomorrow. But this time, we build it together, with truth as our foundation." 3 months after humanity's return, Earth welcomed visitors for the first time in 20,000 years. The ancient homeworld of humanity had been carefully restored during those first weeks, its ecosystems healed from the damage of the ancient war that had driven humans to exile. The Great Assembly Hall stood on what had once been called the Korean Peninsula, its transparent dome allowing the 500 delegates to view Earth's blue sky. Trees and gardens surrounded the structure, showcasing the biodiversity that humans had preserved even in exile. Admiral Sunwoo had stepped down from military command, passing leadership to civilian authorities now that the crisis had passed. He walked through the assembly hall gardens, watching as representatives from across the galaxy mingled freely. Species that had been kept separate by Confederation policy now discovered their common histories and shared goals. "It's more than I hoped for," said a voice beside him. Sun Wu turned to find Hannah approaching, wearing the formal robes of the newly established Nuri Free Council. In the months since the revelation, she had become a respected leader among her people. "The transition has been smoother than we predicted," Sun Wu agreed, "though there are still challenges ahead." Not all had embraced the new reality. Several former Confederation strongholds remained isolated, refusing contact, but they were few and growing fewer as the truth continued to spread. Inside the assembly hall, Council Leader Geo prepared to address the gathered delegates. Once a historian aboard the human fleet, she had been chosen to guide the complex process of galactic reintegration. "Representatives of the galaxy," Geo began, her voice carrying easily through the hall. "3 months ago, many of you had never heard of humanity. Others knew us only as myths or cautionary tales from ancient history." The delegates listened in respectful silence. Among them sat former High Minister Jun, no longer a ruler but simply the representative of his species. The transition had been difficult for him, but he had ultimately accepted the new reality when faced with the overwhelming evidence of history. "We didn't return seeking revenge," Joe continued. "We returned because this galaxy is home to us all. The illusion that kept you controlled and divided has been shattered." On the main display, images appeared showing the collaborative achievements of the pre-Confederation era. Space stations built by multiple species working together, terraforming projects that respected native ecosystems, medical advances shared freely across civilizations. "This was our past," Jiho said, "and it can be our future again." The new Galactic Charter was displayed for all to see. Unlike the Confederation's complex hierarchy of privileged and subjugated worlds, this document established equal standing for all sentient species. "The Charter needs only your approval to become active," Jiho explained. "We will vote today, but first, are there questions?" A representative from a formerly low-status species stood. "Humans clearly possess technology far beyond what exists in the galaxy today. Will you share these advancements with all of us?" Jiho nodded. "Yes, but responsibly. Some technologies require careful introduction. We won't repeat the mistakes of the past, when advancement came without wisdom." Another delegate rose. "What assurance do we have that humans won't simply become the new rulers? Your fleet could conquer the galaxy if you wished." Admiral Sunwoo stepped forward to answer. "Our fleet begins decommissioning tomorrow. 70% of our warships will be converted to exploration and scientific vessels. The remainder will serve the Galactic Charter, not humanity alone." This announcement caused a stir among the delegates. No one had expected such a dramatic demonstration of humanity's peaceful intentions. The vote, when it came, was overwhelming. 493 worlds approved the Charter. 7 abstained. None opposed. As the ceremony concluded, Hannah approached Geo with an ancient star chart she had discovered in the Confederation archives. "There are other galaxies," she said, pointing to markings that indicated established travel routes to nearby star clusters. "The archives suggest the Confederation founders originally came from the Andromeda galaxy. There may be other civilizations there that have also lived under illusions." Jiho studied the chart with interest. "Then perhaps that's humanity's next journey. Not alone, but together with our galactic neighbors." In orbit above Earth, the combined fleet prepared for a new mission. Human ships now flew alongside vessels from formerly Confederation worlds. The massive warships were being systematically reconfigured, their weapons systems replaced with advanced sensors and research facilities. Commander Doyan, newly appointed as Chief of Exploration, reviewed the mission parameters with her mixed-species crew. "We go not as conquerors, but as explorers," she told them. "The illusion has been shattered here. Perhaps there are others who need the same truth." As Earth turned below them, the first joint expedition prepared to depart. The new dawn had arrived. not just for humanity, but for all the peoples of a galaxy finally free from 50,000 years of lies.